Hear me out. I don't like people. And the predominant reason I don't like people is because I believe we're all too busy wanting to be liked, thereby blocking and forfeiting your power and our power as people. So I don't like you. But by God, in its clearest, purest, and unfiltered form, do I love and respect you and everyone. And I sincerely and eagerly want to see you win, however you define winning. And the reason I can say this with absolute conviction and authority of self is because I know what you're thinking, because it's a lot of what I'm thinking. This life thing is really, really hard. And I believe we all as people are unified in that centralized thought and belief. So let's talk it out because it's really hard. Now, I talk regularly, almost all the time, whenever possible, about the impact and possible dangers of the predispositions of our mindset, which is a lot of what we are exposed to in our individual cultures from inception when you are born. And I believe of great significance, and it should not be arbitrarily dismissed as it shapes and forms our identity as individuals contributing to the collective. Yes, it's not just about you, and I still don't like you. I don't care what your background is or lack of perceived wealth. Life is presented to all of us as this massive hustle of struggle and conflict, a chase in a bubble for objects that is constant comparing of nonsense. So what is in and on your mind? Because it is really fucking important. And if you take nothing else from me or this talk, my hope is that you walk away and give these next two lines some time to expand in your mind. That which you condemn will condemn you. That which you judge, you'll become. I don't like you. You want struggle? Imagine the constant condemnation and judgment we bestow upon ourselves, to ourselves, with what we think of ourselves. And for what? What is this persistent and insistent battle in our minds about how eagerly we want to do what is right, how eagerly we want to be accepted, how passionate we are about wanting to thrive and make something out of our lives? Now, I'm not suggesting any of that is out of the realm of what you should be thinking or is somehow irrational or irrational, at least in holistic terms, because we got to live, right? But pursuing the answers to those questions about your life and thereby allowing those answers to define your success, it begs some serious thought. Because what are you thinking? By whose standard? By whose definition? On whose authority? Why do we get so fucked up, twisted in our heads, beat down our morale, and subjectify ourselves to a static set of principles in a world that one could argue has never proven to be more full of dynamic potential and possibilities? It appears what is on your mind. With great pride and ego, we put limits on how we'll contribute to our existence, thereby limiting the experience of our lives to resistance, limiting our vision of commitment to possession that is outside of our minds and permittance. And then really wonder why we never receive deliverance. That is some cliche Jeff poetry. You might need to rewind and let that marinate for a bit. Now, let me attempt to make this relatable merely from a predisposition and cultural exposure perspective, because that's what I started, and that's why I think it really is important, as that's the inception. If the first thing that shapes what you are thinking is your environment, and since I'm only an expert on what I have lived, let me explain mine. Imagine living in the ghetto, American ghetto, not third world starvation and lack of natural freedom type shit, but project living, welfare driven, crime ridden, initial exposure. What do you think that's like? And for the sake of relatability, consider how that does or doesn't compare to you, but is nonetheless relevant for our talk, for what is on your mind. And I don't like people. If your initial ability to define a life for yourself was built off just ensuring your perceived survivability, what is going on and what is going through your mind? Because ghetto or not, our instinct is survival, and therefore, everything around us that we don't understand is a perceived threat. So how much trust do you have in people? And I'm talking like all people, right? Because it still isn't just about you. How much trust do you have in the system or any system now? How much trust do you have in prosperity? What is even prosperity? How much trust do you have in yourself? What is even self? There's no real secret to how generational curses persist, as it is handed down and passed around as if it's inherent and an infinite plague. What is on your mind? I don't like people. Now let me try and explain why you should stop liking people and exchange that for love and respect instead. Even an atheist has to convince you with faith that they don't have faith. This always and will be a faith game, as a fully faithful man knows love with no boundaries. So I don't have to like you, but I am like you. And like you, I know what it's like to struggle in your mind. I know what it's like to look at your reflection and feel the immediate urge to look away. I know what it's like to condemn and therefore be condemned because we think alike. And it might mean my survival over yours. I know what it's like to dislike your appearance and feel immediate disdain because the same was done to me in the place I was raised. I just know what it's flat out like to not like you because I'm certain I know what you think and it's not what I'm thinking, or even worse, it's exactly what I'm thinking. And how dare you think like me, as only I can know my secrets. And then I know what it's like to think all these things and still have to put food on the table. I know what it's like to think all these things and still have to raise a family that's stable. I know what it's like to think all these things and wonder if God, spirit, or universe is willing and able. And if I know what it's like to think all these things, then how dare I not realize what it must be like for you to think all these things, not knowing anything about what you have been exposed to. And therefore, your difficulties are my difficulties, your pain, my pain, your struggle, my struggle. And I love and respect how you choose to define your hustle. It no longer has nothing to do with me, and therefore, likes or dislikes. I don't like you. For what I condemn condemns me. For what I judge judges me. Continuing, notice many times now. Now, while I have said I don't like people, I don't like you, I have never said that I dislike you. Because to make a determination that you like or dislike someone is to simultaneously judge them and be on the constant lookout for what you might dislike about them. And the more you use your mind to judge on dislikes, the more you will attract what you do dislike into your life, thereby creating an environment of people, places, and things that suit your mindset and all that you dislike. So what are you actually thinking? I don't like you. Now, what do we do with this shit, man? You know, this is around a time where a lot of times I write down, I listen to myself as I do this, and I wonder, just what the fuck am I doing? And those moments hurt. I'm human. Massive moments of insecurity, massive moments of fear, and really somewhat loneliness. And eventually, you know, I came to the conclusion, I sincerely believe in my soul, that this is a requirement and a natural progression of the evolution of trying to make an attempt at whatever I'm trying to make an attempt at. And that's just it. And I move on. So if I could offer you anything about why I emphasize and prioritize not liking people, it's because first and foremost, I had to, and I'm continuing the process of trying to stop and stopping to dislike myself and coming to grips with accepting that you think all these crazy demeaning thoughts about yourself because I think all these crazy demeaning thoughts about myself. And yes, it's hard, inclusive of all the other reasons we already talked about. And now 43 trips around the sun, almost, as I'll be 43 end of this year. I still wonder, what is it I am actually doing with myself? This constant battle of comparing, contrasting, and compromising. And I never could, the life of me, figure out for what. And therefore, truthfully, I accepted I don't necessarily have to like myself. If for nothing else, that because a human, I'm entitled to think whatever I want to think, however good or bad on the spectrum. It's free will. But like or dislike has nothing to do with the unadulterated expression of love. So who am I to condemn or judge? I love and respect all as I love myself. If for no other logic, then we all have the right to express love however we choose, not to condemn or judge, even if you choose to tally likes and dislikes. Change your mind, change your life. I am who I say I am. Stay rich.